Hello, my name is Greensville and welcome to the second part of Rank 1 Guide for Japan. In this guide, we will cover the remaining tanks in Rank 1 for the battle ratings from 1.3 to 2. Once again, Japanese tanks have little to no armor, so do not expect to be able to take a hit. The first vehicle I'll be covering is the Type 94 AA truck. The armor on this truck is non-existent, it's a truck. The front of the truck holds the driver, while the open back part of the truck houses the 20mm gun, the gunner, and the commander. The 20mm AA gun is a magazine-fed weapons system holding 20 rounds per magazine and has a reload time of about 4 seconds. It bolsters an APIT round with a max penetration of 48mm, which is good for taking out tanks, and it also comes with HEFIT round with a max penetration of 2mm meant for taking out aircraft. The HEFIT round only has 6 grams of explosive mass, so it's not really worth it to use on enemy tanks or even open top tanks. The Type 94 truck is fast with a max speed of 60 km per hour and a reverse speed of 17 km per hour. So it is good for getting to key locations quickly or for getting out of bad situations fast. Due to the gun being on the flatbed of the truck, the weapon system cannot shoot forwards. So the ideal method of using this truck if you're going after tanks is to take note on where the enemy might be and drive at a 6-degree angle from that approximate location so the gun can look down. The other method of tank hunting is to prop yourself into position and have it so the cab of the truck is behind cover so the only thing exposed is the flatbed of the truck. This allows you to drive into cover quickly since all you would have to do is drive forward. If you're trying to hit aircraft, keep in mind that your rounds travel at 950 meters per second, and the enemy aircraft at this battle rating go about 250 km per hour to 350 km per hour at around 200 to 400 meters up. So you should try to lead them not only ahead of the aircraft but also above or below, depending on how far out the aircraft is. The major downside of this vehicle is not only that it's an open top, but it has no armor, so any machine gun fire can take you out, along with HE, heat, and artillery splash damage overpressuring you. The Chi-Ha is an up-armored and chunkier version of the Ha-Go, supporting the same weapon system as the I-Go-Ko. The Type 3 heat round will be your friend with the max penetration of 55mm at any range. The 25mm RHA on the front and sides of the tank, along with 20mm RHA and 12mm RHA on the upper front plate with a constructional angling of 63 degrees and 80 degrees, means that you no longer have to worry about 50 cal rounds penetrating your armor unless you are close to the enemy or point blank. Due to the upper front plate's constructional angling, when positioning at a 45-degree angle from the enemy, any standard AP round to the upper front plate will cause a bounce. Along with the front armor now at 25mm of RHA means that half the rounds from reserve battle rating to 1.0 will have a hard time penetrating your armor. With the design of this tank a bit more spread out and a 4th crew member added, increases your survivability when hit. Due to the thin armor of the Chi-Ha, AP rounds that penetrate your armor just punch a hole and cause a little amount of spalling, so only the crew behind the round get hit. The Chi-Ha has a good max speed of 40 km per hour, meaning you can get to a good position quickly. The method of playing this tank is to either take a mid-range roll, since the heat round will always penetrate 55mm of armor, or it can take a close range roll due to the increased armor but also because it has a chance to fight tanks as high as a battle rating of 2.3. This will allow you to get a better shot at their weak spots. The downside of this tank is not only the semi-thin armor, but the heat round may not penetrate some of the tanks from battle ratings 1.7 to 2.3 in the front, so you would have to aim for shots to the side of the enemy hull or the rear of the enemy tank. But also, the tank takes a while to get almost up to max speed. The Rogo Experimental is built on the design of the Rogo Heavy tank, but with a little less armor, and it is an open top tank. It's also fat and tall. It uses a short barrel 120mm naval gun mounted to the front of the tank, giving you an okay horizontal guidance of plus or minus 12 degrees. It has access to an okay HE round with a max penetration of 25mm at any range with an explosive mass of 1.97 kilograms, and a SAP round with a max penetration of 63mm with an explosive mass of 1.43 kilograms, meaning that if the SAP round goes off inside the enemy tank, they are knocked out. The Rogo Experimental has a painful 13-second reload speed and a total round count of 16 rounds, so every shot counts. It is slow, bolstering a max speed of 23 km per hour, but gets to max speed quickly, so you will still be late to the fight. The armor on the Rogo Experimental is good at 30mm of RHA in the front and 25mm of RHA on the sides and upper front plate, but has a weak gun shield at only 12mm of RHA. The downside of this tank is that the frontal armor has no constructional angling, meaning its armor value is just 30mm unless you angle the tank. The tank does have 7 crew members, 6 in total in the front and main fighting compartment, and 1 tucked in the back in a small machine gun turret with 25mm of RHA. The Rogo Experimental should be played as a mid-sniper role or rear frontline support. The sap rounds penetration means you should not have that much of a trouble knocking enemies out in one shot, but will have to take time and aim. The downside of this tank is the open top, so any machine gun fire, aircraft, or overpressure mechanics will be your downfall. Also, that the rounds are stored on the extended sides of the tank, so a shot missing center mass will have a high chance of hitting your ammo rack and setting it off. The Teisei is Japan's second AA vehicle, but unlike the Type 94 being a truck, this one is an open top tank. The Teisei is also a 3 crewman vehicle with a driver in the front and a gunner and commander in the open turret. Equipped with the same 20mm gun on the Type 94, it has access to the same HEFIT round and APIT round. It also has the same 20-round magazine and 4-second reload time. Just because it's a tank does not mean it has any more armor than the Type 94 truck. It has a very thin 10mm RHA front armor, a 9mm RHA driver viewport, a 9mm RHA upper front plate, along with a 12mm RHA side armor and full turret armor, meaning anything can penetrate it but the 7mm machine guns. It has a very good max speed of 45 km per hour and gets up to max speed at a decent rate. The method of playing this tank is to get to a key location quickly, and depending on what you're hunting, depends on your course of action. Be it tanks, your best bet is to flank them and hit them from the side or rear at close range with the APIT rounds. Since it only has a max penetration of 48mm and being at battle rating 1.7 means you'll start to fight tanks at 2.7. So the odds of being able to penetrate the front armor of most of the tanks from mid to semi-close range are almost impossible, so your best bet will be to sneak around. If your goal is anti-air, then the HEFIT rounds will be your friend. But like the tanks you are facing having more armor, the aircraft you will be encountering will be slightly faster, and you'll be beginning to have players play bombers that fly at a higher altitude. So keep in mind and adjust the lead when shooting them. The major downside of this vehicle, besides it being an open top tank, is that the gunner and commander sit above the turret armor, meaning that anyone that is your height or taller can knock you out by shooting their machine guns at your turret crew. The last tank for Rank 1 is the Hoai. On a new chassis design, this is Japan's version of the Panzer III style tanks, but is smaller and taller. It has wonderful armor rating of 50mm of RHA in the front at a slight angle of 15 degrees, along with 20mm RHA side armor and 25mm RHA turret cheek armor, and has 12mm RHA upper front plate at a constructional angling of 76 degrees, which gives you about 40mm of protection, meaning that angling your tank at a 45-degree angle from the enemy will be the preferred positioning to the enemy. The Hoai is equipped with a short barrel 75mm gun with a subpar APHE round that for its battle rating, with only a max penetration of 43mm, and an OK HE round with a max penetration of 12mm at any range with only 810 grams of explosive mass. Once unlocking the heat round in the Tier 1 schematics, you gain access to the Type 2 heat round with a max penetration of 90mm at any range, meaning only some spots on heavy tanks and spaced armor would prevent this round from penetrating the enemy. It has a good max speed of 44 km per hour, but does have issue on non-pavement getting close to max speed, and has only 8 km per hour reverse speed, so you don't want to get caught trying to get out of a situation. The method of playing this tank when stuck with APHE rounds is to take a flanking or waiting approach, since it is best to hit the enemy from the side and you don't want to hit them from afar. But with the heat round you can play a frontline support, flanker, or sniper role. since most of the tanks, even at battle rating 3, will not be able to eat 90mm of penetration from a heat round. With a reload rate of 7.6 seconds and a turret rotation rate of 9.8 degrees a second, it is better for you to get the jump on the enemy rather than reacting, since some of the tanks you'll be engaging will be able to get more than one shot off before you can even look at them, and definitely before you can fire more than once. The downside of this tank is not only the slow reload and bad turret rotation, but also because it's tall, people will see you sometimes before you peek a hill and will be able to hit you easier. That is it for the guide on Rank 1 tanks. If you want a more in-depth look at any of these tanks, let me know in the comments below. If you liked this guide or it was helpful to you, please leave a like, and if you want the continuation of these guides as I move on to Rank 2, please subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.